There's a lot of people who think they can trade Bitcoin and try to outperform the market. And that is because they don't know about the 10-day rule of Bitcoin. So today we're going to be running the numbers and explaining what the 10-day rule of Bitcoin is. Because this chart, when I saw it, instantly caught my attention. It is a fascinating chart. And in the big purple bars, it's actually showing you Bitcoin's best 10 days of performance in each year. And next to each year in the gray bar, it's showing you the total return of Bitcoin in the other 355 days in that corresponding year. So, for example, in 2013, we saw 700% returns in Bitcoin's best 10 days. Okay, just think about that for a moment. In only 10 days of the year, Bitcoin went up by over 700%. It's 8x in only 10 days, in its best 10 days. And in the other 355 days, we can see the Bitcoin went up by 600%. Okay, so if you look at the total returns for 2013, you got about 1,300% returns. More than half of those returns came from Bitcoin's best 10 days. Okay, this is the 10-day rule of Bitcoin, and it's a fascinating rule. Okay, this chart really is a brilliant one. I don't want to take you through every single year, but I do want to show you a few more interesting years here. So in 2014, Bitcoin's best 10 days, it appreciated by 201%. In the other 355 days, Bitcoin was negative 86%. Okay, so again, in a bear market, the 10-day rule of Bitcoin is even more important because in 2014, we'd obviously seen that double pump in Bitcoin. Bitcoin had already had its crazy bull market returns. And you can see pretty clearly that you were able to see 200% returns if you were just staying in Bitcoin. But if you're trying to time the market, you could have missed those 10 days of returns. And subsequently, you could have been left with a minus 86% performance trying to time the market in those other 355 days. Okay, so it doesn't matter. In pretty much every single year, you can see that the returns in Bitcoin's best 10 days absolutely dwarf what it does in the rest of the year. So I want to talk a little bit more about this chart in detail later, but I want to show you a few examples because I've run the numbers over here. So this here is the price chart of Bitcoin, and I have two big red squares on this chart. And I want to show you two examples of what I'm talking about in 2017 and 2020. Okay, so we can see here that in 2017, Bitcoin rallied from about $5,000 all the way to $19,000 in literally 28 days. So I've ran the numbers over here in this tweet that I just popped out before going live, which hopefully has a link to the video underneath it. But we can see here in 2017, Bitcoin did that in 23 days. It rallied from $5,800 to $20,000. We saw something similar in 2020. Bitcoin rallied from $17,000 to $42,000 in, again, less than a month, 28 days. Okay, so in this tweet, I said you must understand the 10-day rule of Bitcoin so you don't get left blindsided by Bitcoin's explosive rallies. Okay, and again, we kind of saw something similar in this, 2018 era, okay? I want to zoom in on this era because this is when I kind of got into Bitcoin. And I think the 10-day rule of Bitcoin also applies in bear markets, in particular at the bottoms of bear markets. So when Bitcoin was kind of chopping around sideways here in, let's say, 2018, 2019, not many people thought that this was the bottom for Bitcoin. Let me tell you, everybody thought the Bitcoin was going lower, okay? In 2018, there was actually a model. It was called the hyperwave model. And I'm not going to name any names, but it was talked about by lots of very big, prominent people in the space with hundreds of thousands of followers who were trading experts, okay? And they were all convinced that Bitcoin was going down to $1,300 because that was the hyperwave model. And of course, $1,300, it was the previous all-time high way back here in 2013. Okay, my chart doesn't show it to you, but 1,300 was, the top for that cycle. So they said the bottom for this cycle has to be $1,300. The hyperwave model had all of these really fancy, pretty lines drawn on it. It had all of the, the great TA. And of course, I think there was a lot of people who were under allocated to Bitcoin, myself included, who missed this rally over the next 6 months. In a very, very short period of time, Bitcoin rallied from under $4,000 to $14,000, increasing by 248% in literally 2 months between April and June of 2019. So this is, again, another reminder that Bitcoin can do very, very crazy things in a very short period of time. Okay, Bitcoin rallied by 250% in under 60 days in that 2019 Bitcoin bull market. And absolutely nobody thought that this was going to happen. Nobody thought it was possible. And even myself, I was under allocated to Bitcoin because I thought we were going lower. Okay, I think the first time I bought Bitcoin was when it was about $6,000 before the rear end of Bitcoin dropped out and it pretty much halved overnight to $3,000. Okay. And at $3,000, everybody was most fearful. Everybody believed Bitcoin was going lower. But again, what do they tell you about the consensus? The consensus opinion of the markets are always wrong. And Bitcoin ripped. Bitcoin rallied explosively. Okay, so all-night hider. So TA means technical analysis. Speaking of bullish, apparently things are bullish at George Gammon's conference, Rebel Capitalist Live. I hope you're enjoying it, all-night hider. But speaking of bullish, I believe Bitcoin right now is actually very bullish. I think we've actually popped above $71,000. And today's an interesting day because my friends in Australia have gotten their first Bitcoin spot ETF. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the price chart, but Bitcoin right now is pumping. In Australian cuck bucks, I believe we are over 105,000 Australian dollars. And in US dollars, we're right now at 70,000 US dollars. Again, only 2 weeks after all of the doomers here on YouTube were saying that Bitcoin's definitely going down to $52,000. It's time to sell in May and go away. That's what all of the gurus were saying. Again, we warned about the gurus when we were under $60,000, saying that nobody knows where the price is going in the short term. But hey, look at that. Bitcoin's at $70,000. That is the 10-day rule of Bitcoin. I would love to hear what you guys think about it. I think it's a fascinating chart. I saw this chart and I was like, that can't be right. I have to do a video on that. Look at 2019, for example. That was the year we were talking about. Bitcoin's best 10 days saw 217% returns. And for the rest of the year, down 39%. 2018 is incredible. I think you get the biggest disparities in bear markets. You can see here in 2018, 180% increases in Bitcoin's best 10 days. And in the remaining 355 days, down 91%. That's incredible. That is a massive, massive, massive disparity. Same in the bull market. Let's look at the 2017 bull market, the total bull market. Bitcoin saw 353% returns in its best 10 days. But in the rest of the year, the other 355 days, it only saw 225% returns. So again, I think this is a massive, massive lesson that should tell you, okay, time in the market always beats anybody trying to time the market, okay? Doesn't matter how many subscribers someone has on YouTube. Doesn't matter what kind of fancy lines they might draw on their charts and all of the fancy indicators that they might show you, like the golden cross or the moving averages are doing this and we're on this support line. All of these channels, they make a very compelling case. Trust me. They convinced me for a couple of years in 2018 and 2019 that they were smarter than the market and they could time the market. But I think the data is clear. Nobody can outsmart Bitcoin. Okay, show me a hedge fund that has outperformed Bitcoin. It's impossible. So I think, again, I hope this video tells you guys that timing the market always beats trying to time the market. Okay, I think that is what the 10-day rule of Bitcoin says. So with all that said, guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope All Night Hider has a good a good trip. Sorry, looks to be that he's on the move. So great to see the regulars in the live chat. And with all that said, don't forget about the 10-day rule of Bitcoin, and don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. If you did like this video, actually, speaking about the markets, you might love the interview that we did with Checkmate that we released yesterday. Okay, so everybody wants to know what's happening in the bull run, what's happening with the power law. I would encourage you guys to check out our interview with Checkmate. I nearly forgot to mention it because yesterday we discussed everything to do with the Bitcoin power law, because Check, like myself, has a pretty strong opinion about the Bitcoin power law. So it's a little bit of a funny interview for myself. So again, I'd recommend you check it out. And if you do want to learn a little bit more about the Bitcoin power law, I believe we are writing about this in an upcoming research report. So again, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter and keep an eye on the research reports that we are also putting out as well. You can see they will be linked in the description of today's video, but you can find those on the bitcoinnews.com website. And there is a link to my interview with Checkmate yesterday in the chat. So with all that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Going to keep this one short. That was the 10-day rule of Bitcoin. Pass it on. Tell a loved one about it. I think there's still a lot of people out there who think they can outsmart the markets. All we're warning is that's pretty difficult to do. You know, not many people can do it. So again, hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you guys in the next interview. Enjoy that interview with Checkmate if you haven't seen it.